The essays Francis Bacon. Bacon Francis, 1561 to 1626. English philosopher and essayist who served as Attorney General and Lord Chancellor under King James. Essays 16:1. Considered some of the best works in English literature. Bacon's essays are concise, original expressions of wisdom that deal with philosophical and religious matters. Of fortune, glossary, of truth. What is truth? Said jesting Pilate, and would not stay for an answer. Certainly there be that the line in Judeans, and count it a bondage to fix a belief, affecting free will in thinking as well as in acting. And so the sect of philosophers of that kind begun. Yet there remain certain discoursing wits, which are of the same veins, though there be not so much blood in them, as was in those of the ancients. But it is not only the difficulty and labor, which men take in finding out of truth, nor again, that when it is found, it imposed upon men's thought, that don't bring lies in favor, but a natural thought corrupt love of the life itself. One of the latter school, natural thought corrupt love of the light itself. One of the latter school of the Grecians examined the matter, and it at a stand, to think what should be in it, that men should love lies where neither they make for pleasure, as with poets, nor for advantage, as with the merchant, but for the life's sake. But I cannot tell the same truth, is a naked and open delight, that doth not show the masks, and murmurs, and triumphs of the words, all so sternly and daintily as candlelight. Truth might perhaps come to the price of a pearl, that showeth best by day, but it will not rise to the price of a diamond, of carbuncle, that showeth best in various lights, a mixture of a lie doth ever at pleasure. Doth any man doubt that if there were that taken out of men's means, vain opinions, flirting, hopes, false delusions, imaginations, as one would, and the like, but it would leave the means of a number of men poor shirked, things full of the melancholy and indisposition, and unpleasant to themselves. One of the feathers in great severity called poesy Denon, because it filled the imagination, and yet it is but with the shadow of a lie. But it is not the light that passeth through the mind, but the light that sinketh in and settleth in it, that doth the hurt, such as we speak of before, but how sober these things are choosing men's, they private judgments, and affections, yet truth, which only doth judge itself, teacheth that the inquiry of truth, which is the love-making or wine of it, the knowledge or truth, which is the presence of it, and the belief of truth, which is the enjoyed of it, is the sovereign good of human nature, the first creature of good. In the words of the days was the life of the sense, the last was the light of reason, and his Sabbath work ever since is the illumination of his spirit. First he breathed light upon the face of the mother or child. Then he breathed light into the face of man, and still he breathed and inspired light into the face of his chosen, the poet that beautified that sect, that was otherwise inferior to rest, sages excellent well. It is a pleasure not to stand upon the shore, and to see ships tossed upon the sea, and pleasure to stand in the windows of a castle, and to beat a battle and the adventure thereof below, but no pleasure is comparable to the standing upon the vantage ground of truth, a hill not to be commanded, and where their eye is always clear and serene, and to see the errors and wandering and mists and tempests in the below, so always that this prospect be with pity, and not with swelling or pride. Certainly it is heaven on poor heart to have a man's mind move in charity, rest in providence, and turn upon the pulse of truth, to pass from theoretical and philosophical truth to the truth of civil business. It will be acknowledged even by those that practice it not, that clear and round the line is the honor of man's nature, and that mixture of falsehoods is like alloy in coin of gold and silver, which may make the metal work the better, but it embased it. For this winding and crooked course are the goings of the serpent, which goeth only upon the belly, and not upon the feet. There is not vice that doth so cover a man with shame, as to be found false and perfidious. And therefore Montaigne said prettily, when he inquired the reason why the world of the life should be such and disgrace and such and odious church, said he, if it be well weighed, to say that a man lie is as much to say, as that he is brave towards good, and a coward towards men, for a lie faces good and shrinks from man. Surely the weakness of falsehood and breach of faith cannot possibly be so highly expressed as in that it shall be the last bill, to call the judgment of good upon the generations of men, It being foretold that when Christ cometh, he shall not find fault upon the earth of death. Men for death, as children fear to go in the dark, and as that natural fear in children is increased with tales, so is the other certainly the contemplation of death, as the waves of sin and passage to another world, is holy and religious, but the fear of it as a tribute due unto nature, is weak. Yet in religious meditations there is sometimes mixtures of vanity and of superstition. You should read in some of the friars books of mortification, that a man should think with himself what the pain is, if he have but his fingers and pressure of tortured, and terribly imagine what the pains of death are when the whole body is corrupt, and dissolved when many times death passeth with less pain than the sense. And by him that speak only as philosopher and natural man, it was well said Pompa mortis magis terret, quam mors ipsa, cramps and convulsions, and a discolored face, and friends weeping, and blacks and obsequies, and the like show that terrible. It is worthy the observing that there is no passion in the mind of man, so weak, but it mates and masters, to fear of death, and therefore death is no such terrible enemy, when a man had so many attendants about him, that can win the combat of him. Revenge triumphs over death. Love slimes it, honor aspirate to it, red fled to it, fear preoccupate it. Nay, we read after Otho, the Imperator had slain himself. Pity, which is the tenderest of affections, provoked many to die, of mere compassion to their sovereign, and as the truest sort of followers. Seneca and Nicenas, and satiety, cogita quamdium eadum feceris, moribel notatum fortis aut miser, sed etiam fastidium potest. A man would die though he were neither valiant not miserable, only upon a willingness to do the same things so oft, over and over. It is no less worthy to observe how little alteration in good spirits the approaches of death make, for they appear to be the same men, till the last instant. Augustus Caesar died in compliment. Livia conjuring nostri memor vive et vale. Tiberius in dissimulation has, as Tacitus said of him, jam Tiberium vires et corpus non dissimulatio deserebant Vespasian in a jest, sitting upon the stall, puto Deus fio. Galba with a sentence fairy, si extre, sit populare Romani, holding for his neck. Septimius Severus in despatch adeste si quaet mihi rested, agendum, and the like. Certainly the Stoics bestowed too much cause upon that, and by their great preparation, but made it appear more fearful. Better side he came finem vitae spectrum, inter monera ponitur natura. It is natural to die as to be born, and to a little infant perfect. The one is as painful as the other. He that dies in an earnest pursuit is like one that is wounded in hot blood, who for the time scarce feels the heart, and therefore a mind fixed and bent upon somewhat that is good. Don't aver the horrors of death, but above all believe it. The sweetest canticle is Nunc dimittis, when a man hath obtained worthy ends and expectations. That hath this also, that it openeth the gate to good fame and activity envy. Extinctus amabitur idem. Of unity in religion. Religion being the chief band um, of human society, is a happy thing when itself is well contained within the true band of unity. The quarrels and divisions about religion were always unglued to hasten. The reason was because the religion of the healthy considered greater in rites and ceremonies than in any constant belief. For you may imagine what kind of fair there was, when the chief doctors and fathers of their church were the poets. But the true God had this attribute, that he is jealous good, and therefore his worship and religion will endure to mixture nor partner. We shall therefore speak a few words concerning the unity of the Church. What are the fruits thereof? What the bonds and what the means? The fruits of unity, next unto the well placing of good, which is all in all, are two: the one, towards those that are without the church; the other, towards those that are within. For the former it is certain that heresies and schemes are of all others the greatest scandals, yea more than corruption of manners. For as in the natural body a wound, or solutions of continuity, is worse than a corrupt humor, so is the spiritual, so that nothing that so much keep men out of the church and drive men out of the church, as breach of unity, and therefore when sober it cometh to that pass, that one side exe in deserto, another side exe in impenetralibus. That is when some men secrete in the conventicles of heretics, and others in an outward face of a church that boys had need continually to sound in men's ears, not like the exile, gone out. The doctor of the Gentiles, the propriety of whose vocation drew him to have a special care of those without, said if and Hayden coming, and hear you speak with several tongues, will he not say that you are mad? And certainly it is little better when Athens a profane person do hear of so many discordant and contrary opinions in religion, it doth avert them from the church, and maketh them to sit down in the chair of the scorners. It is but a light thing to be vouched in so serious a matter, but yet it expresseth well the deformity. There is a master of scoffing, that is he catalogue of books of foreign library, sets down his little of a book, the Morris dance of heretics, for indeed every sect of them had a diverse posture of cringe by themselves, which cannot but move derision in world light, and depraved politics, who are apt to contempt only things. As for the fruits towards those that are within, it is space which contains infinity blessing. It establishment, faith, it can let charity, the outward pace of the church, the sliding to pace of conscience, and in turn the labors of writing and reading of controversy, into churches of mortification and devotion, concerning the bonds of unity, the true placing of them, in 46 lengthy, thereafter to be too expressed, for the certain silence and speech of pacification is odious. Is it pace Jesu? What hast thou to do with pace? Turn behind me. Pace is not the matter, but following and party. Contrariwise, certain Laodiceans and lukewarm persons think they may accommodate points of religion by middle way, and taking part of both, and witty reconciliations, as if they would make an arbitrament between God and man. But these extremes are to be avoided, which will be done if the leg of Christian, penetrated by our Saviour himself, wherein two cross clauses thereof, soundly and plainly expounded. He that is not with us is against us, and again, he that is not against us is with us. That is, if the points fundamental and of substance in religion were truly discerned and distinguished from points not merely of faith, but of opinion, order, or good intention. This is a thing may seem to many a matter trivial and done already. But it were done less partially, it would be embraced more generally. Of his it may give only this advice, according to my small mother. Men ought to take heed of reading good good church by two kinds of controversies. The one is when the matter of the point controverted is too small than lie, not worth the hat and strife about it, kindled only by contradiction. For as it is noted by one of the fathers, free schools indeed had no same, but the church vesture was of diverse colours, whereupon he said in best varieties, Sed is sinecura not sit. They be two things, unity and uniformity. The other is, when the matter of the point controverted is great, but it is driven to an over great subtlety and obscurity, so that it becometh a thing rather ingenious, that substantial, and man that is of judgment and understanding, shall sometimes hear ignorant men differ, and know well within himself, that those which so differ mean one thing, and yet they themselves will never agree. And if it come so to pass in that distance of judgment which is between man and man, shall we not think that good above that knows the hair doth not discern that frail men in some of their contradictions intend the same things, and accept of both? The nature of such controversy is excellent. Lengthy explains by St. Paul in the warning and precepts that he giveth concerning the same. Debita profanas vocum novitates et oppositioes falsi nominis citae. Men create oppositions which are not, and put them into new terms, suffixed as whereas the meaning ought to govern the term. The term in effect governeth the meaning. There be also twofold bases or unities. The one when the base is grounded, but upon an implicit ignorance. For all colors will agree in the dark. The other when it is based upon a direct admission of contraries in fundamental points. For truth and falsehood in such things are like the iron and clay in the tooth of Nebuchadnezzar's image. They may clave, but they will not incorporate. Concerning the means of proceeding unity, men must beware that in the pursuing or uniting of religious unity, they do not dissolve and deface the laws of charity, and of human society. There be two swords among us Christians, the spiritual and temporal, and both have their office and place in the mansions of religions, but we may not take of the third sword, which is Mahomet, swords or like unto it, that is the propagate religion by wars, or by sanguinary persecutions to force consent, except it be in cases of overt scandal, blasphemy, or intermixture of practices against the state, but much less to nourish seditions, notorious conspiracies, and rebellions, to bat the swords into the people's hands, and the like, tending to be subversions of all government, which is the ordinance of good. For this is but to dash the first table against the second, and so consider men as Christians as we forget that they are men. Lucretius the poet, when he beheld the act of Agamemnon that could endure the sacrificing of his own daughter, exclaimed tantum religio potuti suaderum malorum. What would he have said if he had known of the massacre in France, or the powdered treason of England? He would have been 7 times more epicure, and attains that he was, for as the temporal sword is to be drawn with cruel circumspection, is in cases of religion, so it is a thing monstrous to put it into the hands of the common people. Let that be left unto the Anabaptists and other furious. It was great blasphemy when the devil said, I will ascend and be like the highest. But it is greater blasphemy to personate God, and by him is saying, I will ascend and be like the prince of darkness. To the cruel and unextricable actions of Martin Prince, battery of people, and subversions of states and governments. Surely this is to bring down the Holy Ghost. Instead of the likeness of a dove, in the shape of a vulture or raven, and set out of the bark of the Christian church, and flag of a bark of pirates and assassins. Therefore it is most necessary that the Church, by doctrine and decree, princes by their swords and all learning, but Christian and moral as by their mercury rod, do damn and send to hell forever, those facts and opinions tending to the support of the same, as had been already in good part done. Surely in Corrales concerning religion that counsel of the apostle would be prefix ira hominis non implet justitiam Dei, and it was a notable observation of a wise father, and no less ingenuous, confessed, that those which held and persuaded pressure of conscience were commonly interested therein themselves for their own ends. Of revenge. Revenge is a kind of will justice, which the more man nature runs to the more allowed to weed it out. For as for the first ground, it done bad often the law, but the revenge of that crown, punted the loud out of office. Certainly in taking revenge a man is bad, even with his enemy, but in passing it over he is superior, for it is a price part to pardon, and Solomon, I am sure, said, it is the glory of a man to pass by an offense, that which is past is gone and irrevocable, and with men have naught to do, with things present and to come. Therefore they do but trifle with themselves, that labor in past matters. There is no man doth a ground for the ground's sake, but surely to purchase himself profit or pleasure or honour or the like. Therefore why should I be angry with a man for loving himself better than men? And if any man should do wrong, merely out of his nature, will yet it is but like the turn of right, which pride and scratch, because they can do not other. The most tolerable sort of revenge is for two grounds which there is law to remedy, but then let a man take it, the revenge be such as there is no law to punish. Else a man's enemy is still beforehand, and it is 2 for 1. Some when they take revenge are the serious the party should know, whence it cometh. This is the more generous, for the delight seeming to be, not so much in doing the hurt, as in making the party repeat, but base and crafty cowards are like the arrow that flies in the dark. Cosmus, Duke of Florence, had a desperate saying against perfidious of neglected friends, as if two grounds were unpardonable. You shall read, said he, that we are commanded to forgive our enemies, but you never read that we are commanded to forgive our friends. But yet the spirit of Job was in a better time, shall we, said he, take a good hand, and not be content to take evil also, and so of friends in a proportion. This is certain that a man that studies revenge keeps his own wounds green, which otherwise would health and do well. Public revenge are for the most part fortunate, as that for the death of Caesar, for the death of Pertinax, for the death of Henry the Third of France, and many more. But in private revenges it is not so, neither within checks persons life the life of witches, who, as they are mischievous, so end the infortunate. Of adversity. It was an high speech of Seneca, after the manner of the Stoics, that the good things which belong to prosperity are to be wished, but the good things that belong to adversity are to be admired. Bona rerum secundam optabilia, adversarum mirabilia. Certainly, if miracles be the command of nature, they uppermost in adversity, It is yet a higher speech of his, that the other much too high for a heaven. It is true greatness to have in one the friendly of man, and the security of a good. Per magnum haber fragilitatem hominis securitatem Dei. This world have done better in poesy, where transcendence are more allowed, and the poets in death have been busy with it, for it is in effect the thing which figurate in that strange fiction of the ancient poets, which seemed not to be without mystery, nay, and to have some approach to a state of Christian, that Hercules, when he went to unbind Prometheus by whom human nature is precedent, sailed the length of the great ocean in a hated port of picture, liberally describing Christian resolution, that sailed in the frail bark of the flesh, through the ways of the world, but to speak in a man, the virtue of prosperity is temperance, the virtue of adversity is fortitude, which in morals is the more heroical virtue. Prosperity is the blessing of the Old Testament, adversity is the blessing of the New, which carried the greater benediction and the clearer revelation of God's favor. Yet heaven in the Old Testament, if you listen to David's harp, you shall hear as many airs like airs as carols, and the pencil of the Holy Ghost had labored more in describing the affections of good, of Job, than the felicities of Solomon. Prosperity is not without many fears and distates, and adversity is not without comforts and hopes. We see in needleworks and embroideries it is more pleasing to have a lively work, upon a sad and solemn ground, than to have a dark and melancholy work, upon a lightsome ground. Judge therefore of the pleasure of the heart, by the pleasure of the eye. Saintly virtue is like precious odours, most fragrant when they are incensed or chosen, for prosperity doth best discover vice, but adversity doth best discover virtue. Of simulation and dissimulation. Dissimulation is but a fine kind of policy, of wisdom, for it asketh a strong wit, and a strong heart to know when to tell truth, and to do it. Therefore it is the weather sort of politics, that are the great dissemblers. Tacitus said Livia sorted well with the arts of her husband, and dissimulation of her son, attributes or policy to August, and dissimulation to Tiberius. And again when Mucianus encouraged Vespasian to take arms against Vitellius, he said, "We rise not against the piercing judgments of Augustus, nor the extreme caution of closeness of Tiberius. These properties of arts of policy and dissimulation of closeness are indeed habits and faculties several, and to be distincted. For if a man have the penetration of judgment, as he can discern what things are to be laid open and what to be secret, and what to be showed at half lights, and to whom and when, which indeed are arts of state, and arts of life, as Tacitus well called them. To him, a habit of dissimulation is a hindrance and poorness. But if a man cannot obtain to that judgment, there is not left to him generally to be close and a dissembler, for where a man cannot choose or vary in particulars, there it is good to take the safest and wisest way in general, like the going softly by one that cannot well see. Certainly the ablest men that ever were have had all and openness and frankness of the line, and a name of certainty and veracity, but then they were like horses well managed, for they could tell pacing well, when to stop or turn, and such times when they thought the case in the required dissimulation, if then they used it, it came to pass that the former opinion spread abroad of their fight and greenness of the line, on the line, made them almost invisible. There be three degrees of his of this hiding and veiling of a man's self. The first closest reservation and secrecy, when a man left himself without observation, or without hold to be taken what he is. The second dissimulation is the negative, when a man lets fall signs and arguments that he is not that he is, and the third dissimulation in the affirmative, when a man indiscreetly and expressly faith and protests to be he is not. For the first of these secrecy, it is indeed the virtue of a confessor, and assuredly the sacred man carried many confessions, for who will open himself to a blood of a labor? But if a man be so sacred, it indeed discovery, as the more close air soaken in the more open, and as in confession, the revealing is not for worldly use, but for the ease of a man here, so sacred men come to the knowledge of many things in that kind, will men rather discharge their means than impart their means. In few words, mysteries are due to secrecy. Besides, to say truth next in uncommonly as well in mind as body, and it added to no small reverence to men's matter and actions, if they be not altogether open. As for talkers and futile persons, they are commonly blind and credulous with heart. For he that talketh what he knoweth, will also talk what he knoweth not. Therefore with this down, that an habit of secrecy is both politic and moral, and in this part it is good that a man face give his tongue left to speak, for the discovery of a man's self by the tracks of his contents is a great weakness, and betraying be how much it is many times more marked and believed than a man's words. For the second, which is dissimulation, it followed many times upon secrecy, by the necessity to that his said will be secret, must be a dissembler in some degree. For men are too cunning to suffer a man to keep an indifference carried between both, and to be secret without swaying the balance of her side. They will so beset a man with questions, and draw him on, and pick it out of him, that without an absurd silence he must show an inclination one way, or if he do not, they will whether as much be his silence, as be his speech, as for equivocations or oraculous speeches, they know take note hold of long, so that when so that no man can be secret except he give himself a little scope of dissimulation, which is as it were but the skirts of trend of secrecy, but for the third degree, which is this is simulation and false profession, that is whole more culpable and less politic, except, except it be in great and great matters, and therefore a general custom of simulation, which is this last degree, is a busy resignator of a natural fastness or fairness, of a man or of a mind that had some main faculty, which because a man must needs distinct, it making him practice simulation in other things, lest his hand should be out of use. The great advantage of simulation and dissimulation are three first, to say as left of each options and to surprise. For where a man's intentions are published, it is an alarm to call up all that are against them. The second is to reserve to a man a self-fair trait, for it a man engages himself by a manifest declaration he must go through or take a fall. The theory is the better to discover the mind of another, for to him that opens himself when will hardly show themselves adverse, but will fair let him go on, and turn their freedom of speech to freedom of thought, and therefore it is a good shilling proverb of the Spaniard, tell a lie and find a thought, as if there were no way of discovery, but by simulation there be also their disadvantages to set it even. The first that simulation and dissimulation commonly carry with them a show of fairness, which in any business doth spoil the feathers of round flying up to the mark. The second that is puzzled and perplexed the conceits of many, that perhaps would otherwise cooperate with him, and makes a man walk almost alone to his own ends. The third and greatest is that it deprived a man of the one of the most principal instruments for action, which is truth and belief. The best composition and temperature is to have openness in fame and opinion, secrecy in habit, dissimulation in seasonable use, and a powder to fade if there be no remedy. Of parents and children. The joys of parents are sacred, and so are their graves and fears. They cannot other the one, nor they will not other to the other. Children sweeten labors, but they make misfortunes more bitter. They increase the cares of life, by the mitage the reverence of death. The perpetuity by generation is common to beasts, but memory merit and noble works are proper to men, and surely a man shall see the noblest works and foundations have proceeded from children's men, which have sought to express the images of their minds, where two of their bodies are filled. So the care of prosperity is most in them that have no prosperity. They that are the fierce racer of their horse are most indulgent towards their children, beholding them as the continuance, not only of their kind, but of their work, and so both children and creatures. The difference in affection of parents towards their several children is many times unequal, and sometimes unworthy, especially in the mothers, as Solomon said, a wise son returns to the father, but an ungracious son shames the mother. And man shall see where there is house full of children, one or two of lenders respect, and the youths made wantons, but in the minds some that are as either forgotten, who many times nevertheless prove the best the illiberality of parents in allowance towards their children is an harmful error makes them base, acquaints them with ships, makes them sort with man's company, and makes them surfeit more when they come to plenty, and therefore the proof is best. When men keep their authority towards the children but not their purse, men have a foolish manner, but both parents and schoolmasters and servants in rating and braiding and emulation between brothers during childhood, which many times sorted to discord when there are many disturbed families. The Italians make little difference between children and nephews or near kinsfolks, but so they be of the lamp. They care not though they pass not through their own body, and to say true the nature is it is much alike mother, insomuch that way nephew sometimes resemble an uncle or a kinsman more than his own parent, and the blood happens. Let parents choose betimes the vocations and course they men their children should take, for then they are most flexible, and let them know too. Of marriage and single life. He that had wife and children have give hostage for fortune, for they are impediments to great enterprise, either of virtue or mischief. Certainly, the best words and worst and greatest merit for the public have proceeded for the unmarried of or children men, or children men, which both in affection and means have married and renewed the public. Yet it were great reason that those that have children should have greater care of future times, unto which they know they must transmit their direct pledges. Some there are who, though they lead a single life, yet dare to aid with themselves and account future times impertinence. Neither are some other that account wife and children but has bills of church. Nay more there are some foolish rich covetous men that take and pride in having no children because they man be so much the richer. For prefer, for prefers they are either some such and one is a great rich man, and another except to it yet, but he had a great charge of children, as it as if it were an abandonment to his riches, but the most ordinary causes of a single life, a liberty especially in certain self-pleasing and humorous minds, which are so sensible of every restraint, as they will no need to think their girdles and girdles to be bonds and shackles. Unmarried men are best friends, best mothers, best servants, but not always best judgments, for they are light to run away, and almost unforgiveness are the conditions, and single life doth well with churchmen, for charity will hardly water the ground where is much fierce fill a pool. It is indifferent for hundreds and magistrates, for it they be facile and corrupt. You should have a severe man will 5 times worse than a wife, for soldiers in I find generous commonly in their hurtubis, but men in mind of their wives and children, and I think the display of marriage amongst the church made the vulgar soldier more base. Certainly wife and children are kind of discipline of humanity, and single men today may be many times more charitable, because their means are less exhausted, yet on the other side they are more cruel and hard-hearted. Good may severe inquisitors, because their daringness is not so oft called upon. Grave natures let be custom, and therefore constant are commonly lonely husbands, as was said of Ulysses. Betulam swam praetulit immortality. Chaste women are often prone and froward, and presuming upon the merit of their chastity, it is one of the best bonds, but of chastity and obedience in the wife, if she think her husband wise, which she will never do, if she find him jealous, wives are young men's mistresses, combinations for middle age and old men nurses. Of envy. There be none of the affections which have been noted to facilitate our breachings, but love and envy. They both have basis wishes, they frame themselves readily into imaginations and suggestions, and they come easily into to age, especially upon the presence of the objects, which are the points that conduce to fascination, if any such things there be. See likewise the Scripture called envy and evil, and the astrologers call the evil influences of the stars, evil aspects, so that still there seem to be acknowledged. In the act of envy and ejaculation or irradiation of the eye. Nay, some have been so curious as to know that times when the streak of persecution of envious age the most hard are when the party envied is beheld in glory or triumph, for that sets an edge upon envy, and besides on such times to a spirit of the person envied to come foremost into the outward parts, and so meet the blow. But leaving these currents so not only to be so on the fit place, we will handle what persons are empty to envy others, what persons are most subject to be envied themselves, and what is the difference between public and private envy. A man that had no virtue and himself ever invite virtue in others, for men's minds will either feed upon their own good or upon others' evil, and who waited the one will prey upon the other, and was is out of hope. To attention to other virtue will seek to come and even by an even hand, by despising another fortune. And man that is busy and inquisitive is commonly envious, for to know much of other men's matters cannot be because all that either may concern his own state. Therefore it must needs be that he taken a kind of pleasure in looking upon the fortunes of others. Neither can he that meaning but is now of baseness find much matters for envy is a kind impatient and walk at the streets, and and doth not keep home, not estate curious, kim idiom sit malevolus. Men of noble birth are noted to be envious towards new men, when the rise for the distance is already, and it is like and said of the eye that when others come on, they think themselves go back. Deformed persons and eunuchs and old men and bastards are envious, for he that no possibility men his own case will do what he can to impair another, except the defects laid upon a very brave and heroic nature, which thinketh to make his natural wants parts of his nature, his honour, in that he should beside than the notch or a lame man did such great matters, and finds the honour of a miracle, as it was in Narcissus to Enoch and Agesilaus and Tumbleness that were lame. They the same is the case of men that rise after calamities and misfortunes, for they are as men fallen with the times, and think other men's arms are redemptions of their own sufferings. They that desire to excel into many matters of levity and vain glory, and ever envious, for they cannot want work in vain, impossible, but money in some one of those things should surpass them, which was the character of Adrian the Emperor. The mortally envied poets and preachers and artificers in wars wherein he had a vein to excel. Listeners, king cults, and fellows in office and those that have been bred together are more apt to envy their squads when they are raised, for it doth pride unto them their own fortunes, and pointed at them, and commend enter into their remembrance, and incurrent likewise more into the note of others, and envy ever redoubled from speech and fame. Cain's envy was the more vile and malignant toward his brother Abel, because when his sacrifice was better accepted, whereas where was nobody to look on thus much for those that are apt to envy, concerning those that are more or less subject to envy first persons of eminent virtue, when they are advanced, are less envied, for their fortune made but due unto them, and no man envy the payment of Adams but rewards and liberty rather. Again, envy is ever journeyed with the comparison of man's self, and where there is no comparison, no envy. And therefore we kings are not envied but by kings. Nevertheless, nevertheless, it is to be noted that unworthy persons are most envied at their first command in, and afterward overcome it better, whereas contrariwise, persons of worth and merit are most envied, when their fortune continued long, for by that time, though their virtue be the same, yet it had not the same lustre, for fresh men grow up that darkened it. Persons of noble blood are less envied in their reason, for it seems but rain done to their birth. Besides, there's something that seemeth not much adhered to their fortune, and envy is a semblance that bid other upon a bank or steep rising ground down upon a flat, and for the same reasons those that are advanced by address are less envied than those that are advanced suddenly and per saltum. Those that have gained with their honour great travels, cars or perils, and less judgment to envy. For men think that they are not their honours hardly, and pity them sometimes, and pity ever helps heavy. Wherefore you shall observe that the more deep and sober sort of political persons in their greatness are ever blaming themselves that what a life they led, cheating a quanta patimur. Not that they feel it so, but only to obey the edge to envy, but this is to be understood of business, that is laid upon men, and not such as they call unto themselves, for nothing increaseth envy more than an unnecessary and ambitious engrossing of business. Above all, Those are most subject to envy, which carry the greatest of their fortunes, in an insolent and proud manner, being never well but while they are showing how great they are, eating by outward pomp, or by jumping over all oppositions or competitions wordless-wise, meanwhile rather to do sacrifice to envy in suffering themselves sometimes of purpose to be crossed and overborne in things that no much concern them, not which stating so much is true that the courage of greatness in a plain and open manner, so it be without arrogancy and vainglory, doth doubtless envy that if it be in a more crafty and cunning fashion. For in that course a man doth but disable fortune and something to be conscious of the of his own wanting worth and doth but teach others to envy him. Lastly, to conclude this part, as we said in the behind, that they act to envy had somewhat in it witchcraft, so there is no other cure of envy but the cure of witchcraft, and that is to remove the lot, as they call it, and to say it upon another. For which purpose the wiser sorts of great persons break in ever upon the stage somebody upon ground to derive the envy that would come upon themselves, sometimes upon mistresses and servants, sometimes upon colleagues and associates and the like, and for that turn there are never waiting some persons of violence and under kind natures who so they may have power and business will take it at any cost. Now to speak of public envy, there is yet some good in public envy, whereas a private there is none, for public envy is as an ostracism, that enclaimment when they grow too great, and therefore is it a brittle and too great ones to keep them witness bound. This envy being in the Latin word envia was in the modern language by the name of discontentment, of which we shall speak in holding sedition. It is a disease in a state, like to infection, for as infection spreading upon that which is sound, and tainted it, so when envy is gotten once into a state, it traduceth even the best action thereof, and turneth them into an ill odor. And therefore there is little one by unbending of placeable actions, for that not there argued but a wickedness and fear of envy which hurted so much the more, as it is likewise usual in infections, which if you fear them you call them upon you. This public envy something to beat chiefly upon principal officers of ministers, rather than upon kings and states themselves, but this is a sure rule, that if the envy upon the minister be great, when the cause of it in him is small, or if the envy be general in manner upon all the misters of an state, the envy so hidden is truly upon the state himself, and so much of public envy or discontentment, and the difference thereof from private envy, which was handled in the first place, We will have this in general touching the affections of envy, that of all other affections it is the most importune and continual, for of others affection there is occasion given, but no, and then, and therefore it was well said, invidia Festus days not agate, for it is ever working upon some or other, and it is also noted that love and envy to make a man pine, which other affections to do, because they are not so continual. It is also the vilest affections, and the most depraved, so for which cause it is the proper attribute of the devil. How is called the envious man, that some natures among us, the greeted by night, as it always cometh to pass that envy worketh subtly and in the dark, and to the prejudice of good things, such as is the weight of love.